protein is often considered one of the most important nutrients in the fitness and health space. But what if protein was overrated? To go further, what if protein was bad? That is an argument I ran into when reading a book called The Starch Solution. In chapter 3, referring to excess protein as a toxin. So what then would happen if I tried to eliminate protein from my diet? How hard would it be? What problems would I run into? And what else might I discover? This is 1 week trying to eat no protein, but you gotta focus. Huge steaming pile of white rice and some boiled bok choy. Meal 1, day 1. 0 protein. Absolutely 0. So any of you nutrition nerds out there will know that this actually isn't 0 grams of protein. White rice actually contains about 12 grams of protein per cup dry, and bok choy contains about 2 to 3 grams of protein per cup shredded.
It's good, but I feel like there should be like a piece of chicken or something in there too, you know? Like my body's like, where's the protein, bro?
So wait a minute, is this just a vegan diet then? I thought you already did that, bro. Well, yes and no. Yes, this diet will end up being vegan, but no, it's not just any vegan diet. Unlike the typical vegan diet that encourages eating high-protein vegan foods, this diet encourages eating starches.
0 protein in this. Alright, let's go.
Now, while eating whole foods-based starches will inevitably have protein, the amount will be very low. And one could even perhaps say in gym bro standards that I was eating no protein, because the protein in rice don't count. In fact, I asked you guys about this, and of the 12,000 people that voted, almost half said it didn't count. And for my final meal, I had a whole nother cup of rice measured out dry, which equated to this huge bowl of rice, washing it down with a sparkling water, which essentially has 0 calories. So the macros for this day obviously ended up being mostly carbohydrates, a little under 50 grams of uncountable protein. But even more crazy, apparently only 1 gram of fat. So my eyes felt extremely dry when I first woke up, but they have since then moisturized. Other than that, and mentally feeling like all of my muscles are just turning into dust, I gotta say, I don't feel particularly bad or anything like that. And while getting to work at my computer, everything's going smooth. I've had 2 bananas so far. I'm probably gonna have 3. Those are allowed on this diet. Fruits are allowed, thankfully. But I am planning to work out later today, so I'm curious to see how that's going to feel. Oh, man. So I ended up eating 3 ripe bananas as I worked at my computer for the next couple of hours. And then in the mid-afternoon, I got into my workout. Starting with a partial rehabilitative routine for my lower back, I then got into my upper body portion, which consisted of explosive push-ups and pull-ups. I finished up inside with some isometric core, decided to mow the lawn, and then I stayed outside to finish up the lower body portion of this workout. Now, something very interesting that I'm noticing now watching this was like the mental anguish my bro self was feeling from only having 50 grams of non-complete protein in the last 48 hours. It's like I just felt in my mind that my muscles were wasting away, even though when I flexed for the camera right here, I actually looked pretty darn pumped. Probably from all the carbs. Something very important I should mention regarding the protein found in the whole food plant foods that I was eating during this diet is the fact that they are considered incomplete protein sources. This means that they are lacking one of the 9 essential amino acids that the body cannot produce. For instance, rice is typically lacking lysine, whereas beans are typically lacking methionine. So a standard vegan diet would recommend you combine these 2 ingredients to fill in the gaps. However, based on my interpretations, Dr. McDougall believes the concept of complete proteins is essentially a myth, in that if you just get enough calories, then you should be fine. Okay, but what about body composition, bro? Well, that is what I'm going to find out during this week. Wow. I'm gonna put some salt on this rice, because I feel like that sounds really good. And salt, it's not protein. For my post-workout meal, I had 600 grams of rice with some salt. But as you can imagine, getting pretty sick of rice, I decided to switch dinner up to a different starch: potatoes. I added some baked bok choy and baby broccoli, but unlike the previous day when I only ate 1 gram of fat, this time I added 2 tablespoons of olive oil to this meal.
This is like the first time I've ever eaten a vegetable and felt like I'm utilizing the micro proteins in the vegetable, the trace proteins. Like, this feels like a piece of meat right now. It's only day 2. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I felt like I was really struggling with that mental protein withdrawal. But was there anything actually happening to my body? Anyways, I had 2 plates of this meal.
Boom. I'm not eating that.
Then only about an hour later, I was still feeling hungry and just like I was missing something, but only sticking to the starches, I finished up with another 600 grams of white rice. And unlike the previous day, this time I was almost able to perfectly hit the macro split of 80-10-10. Now, however, going to bed night 2 was kind of rough. The entire night, my stomach just didn't feel right. And the next morning, waking up groggy after tossing and turning all night, I was almost ready to quit.
So I kind of had a difficult night sleeping last night. My stomach was like churning, like you would churn butter, but there ain't no butter in there. I don't know what's so funny about that. I gotta be honest though, I feel like I am actually leaner for real. Like if I flex my stomach, like it feels actually tighter, and I feel like I've like shrink wrapped a little bit.
After waking up from this rough night, I kinda got into the groove, drank some coffee with a couple of bananas, and then a little later I had a big plate of white rice for lunch. Turns out I'm actually in a no protein coma right now, and I'm just talking in a dream. I'm at the store, sick of rice. I'm gonna get some dinner for tonight and then food for tomorrow and the next day as well. I'm thinking sweet potatoes because that's a starch. Kind of hating this diet, to be honest with you. Now, a huge positive, something that should be noted as I load up on these starchy vegetables as well as some potatoes for later, is that this diet, even when getting what some would consider the unnecessary organic version of foods, well, it's still very cost effective. That's kind of it. Dang. Later for dinner, I made a heaping pile of roasted potatoes, both sweet and Yukon Gold. I did add a tablespoon of coconut oil, and then for the meat of the meal, I boiled some baby broccoli and bok choy. That's my meat. I did also add 1/2 of an avocado to bring my daily macros to almost that perfect, or at least what I was trying to hit, 80-10-10 split.
Jackson sent his own team to protect the Fox. This is bad.
So I've been in quite the deficit these last couple of days. I estimate my average calorie expenditure is around 3,000 a day, and I'm under that for sure. But what's very interesting to me today is even with that, I'm like just not hungry. Like I'm not hungry at all, especially not for rice, not for potatoes, not for bananas. Like I just don't want anything. But also, even if I think about chicken or beef, like that just doesn't even sound good to me either. I just don't want anything. Other than that though, on a more positive note, I've noticed like the skin on my stomach, it seems like it is shrink wrapping. I do feel like I am losing fat, literally from my stomach. It's probably mostly water, but it just feels way more shrink wrapped and tighter around here. I guess that's going in the right direction. But now muscle wise, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of just shrinking.
So maybe my stomach was just having difficulty with this new way of eating and I just needed time to adapt to it, because I really wasn't feeling hungry at all, and if I wasn't hungry, I wasn't gonna eat. Maybe this was a mistake, but I felt like it made sense to listen to what my body was trying to tell me. So after work, I ended up getting a workout in fasted, but I still noticed a pretty crazy pump, probably from all of the carbohydrates. Got done with the workout, it was alright. Kind of got a crazy pump, but to be honest, it felt like my muscles were disappearing underneath the pump. I don't know how that makes any sense, it's just how I felt. Haven't eaten anything today because I haven't been hungry, but all of a sudden, right now, I think it's like 2, maybe going on 3, I'm getting pretty hungry, but I'm only craving one thing. Eggs. Not beef, not chicken, not fish, eggs. Like a hard-boiled egg sounds really good right now. But I'm not gonna have that, don't worry. No, I'm gonna have some rice, and you know what? I'm gonna spice it up a bit. I'm gonna put some banana slices on it. So I've got my post-workout rice with some banana slices, and then to spice it up a bit, I drizzled some lemon juice on top. It's like lemon banana rice. If this diet wasn't already the tooth destroyer, it now officially is. Oop, nasty piece. We don't eat those. Yeah, I don't know why I was craving this weird combination of foods, and honestly, I don't say I'd recommend it. It wasn't that good. Anyways, a little later, I was realizing something interesting while I was going through some rehabilitative stretches. So perhaps a little bit of good news. Something I've been noticing these last couple of days, more and more so, all my old injuries, and specifically my back, they don't feel as like inflamed or achy. Like my joints feel pretty darn good. Is there some kind of anti-inflammatory effect here? Or was something slightly inflammatory about the macros I was eating before this? I guess when I go back to my normal diet, we will see. I don't know, that's just something interesting to note because you know, you always hear you gotta eat fat to cushion your joints and this and that and the other thing, even though that doesn't really make any sense. But like, what if there's just an inflammatory, like an over-inflammatory response sometimes from eating so much protein? I'm feeling pretty good in the joints, that's all I'm saying. Maybe it's just because I'm wasting away and I'm lighter or something else. My brain's like, don't worry about that stuff, you're wasting away, you gotta worry about other things. There's plenty of explanations aside from just what I said, but just something I'm noting, okay? Scientists out there, okay? Can't wait to eat some potatoes. So I'm gonna get cooking those. So again for dinner, I had more roasted potatoes with a tablespoon of coconut oil, half an avocado, and boiled baby broccoli on the side. I ate 2 total plates of this, spanning over about 2 hours. And honestly, that was it for the day. I didn't want any more, bringing my macros pretty close to that 80-10-10 split, but only around 2,000 calories. Yikes. A little bit. So I ran out of vegetables on day 5, so I just ended up eating a ton of starch. Rice and coffee, more rice and coffee and a banana, and then potatoes and rice on potatoes and rice. Man, such a strange work week. Speaking of strange, this book and supporters of this diet that I got this idea from pretty much claim all the benefits that carnivores claim you get on the carnivore diet, except for this diet, as you've seen, is basically the exact opposite of the carnivore diet. And what's strange is I've read so many anecdotes of people doing either of these diets and experiencing similar benefits, like weight loss, perception of increased health, and whatnot. Now back to this starch-focused, low-protein, no-protein bro diet. It was an interesting week. From moderate digestive discomfort to losing my appetite, perhaps not eating enough, to somewhat getting in the groove and perhaps experiencing some anti-inflammatory effects, leading me to some interesting thoughts and some new techniques I want to try regarding protein in the future. I'll get to that in a minute, but first, how did my physique look compared to before starting this diet? First of all, nearly down 5 pounds in 5 days, and that was with a ton of carbs. So did I just lose a ton of muscle? Let's compare before and after. Holy moly, by the way, everybody who's saying that you can't see any difference in only a week, in my opinion, you can clearly see a difference. But let me know your thoughts. Anyways, regarding protein and carbohydrates going forward, I feel like there's 2 paths I could take. One being more consistent on a daily basis, but the other path, maybe doing something, this theory that I heard about a long time ago called protein cycling. That is eating less protein at the beginning of the week and then ramping up your protein at the end of the week and then starting over again. Apparently it's supposed to like confuse the body and never let it adapt to getting so much protein in that it doesn't necessarily need. And you can get the most out of the least. I don't know if that's true, that's just what I've heard, and I think it's an interesting theory. Something that felt like it was supporting this theory is that when I finally had some eggs after this experiment, it just felt like my body was soaking it up. Like, did it become extra sensitive to protein? Let me know what you guys think about exploring that idea further. Let me know what you thought of this video. Thank you so much for watching. More videos coming out. Peace. I will see you all in the next video.